but you can't see.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's wearing a face mask at this point.
Mm-hmm. Ladies especially.
Mm-hmm.
I think
Definitely here
Josh
in
at this point is
DC.
with it. But I mean, what?
Oh, just definitely here in DC. Quite a few cases out here.
Yeah.
How many cases are out there in DC?
Well, we are on lockdown until June, so quite a few thousand.
Okay. Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, US at this point, like I don't even. I'm very concerned about New York and
Yeah.
East Coast of the US. It's terrible over there.
Again, Navajo.
Oh yeah, like yesterday, Kenneth shared a message that Janine Yazzie sent to him. It's terrible over there in Navajo Nation. So yeah. So how
I think it's 7 times the national rate.
in Navajo Nation?
That was a statistic I found when I was trying to prepare something. Yeah.
Oh shoot. Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna try to. I put a image capture, and it just has device 0. So, and I'm gonna try to the photo booth to trick it, and then if that doesn't work, I'll try turn on, turn off.
Sure. Yeah. Do whatever.
You know anything else with that Mac? Anybody else have a Mac that never had a camera work all of a sudden? I think he's just tired of zooming. He's like, "You're ugly, and we've been showing you way too much." So I'm out.
I understand that completely. It's happened several times.
Well, yeah, you could give it a try, and when you drop out and drop in, like,
Okay.
yeah, you can try to fix it. Otherwise, we just rock and roll. You know, it shouldn't be a problem. It's as informal as it can get, anyway.
Absolutely. So is it under applications that normally the Mac camera shows up real quick?
Photo booth. That's what I use.
Okay, let me check.
Otherwise, it should prompt you to like when you log in, like when you got the link, that it prompts you to use your microphone and camera. So I don't know what exactly is going on though. Oh, sorry. By the way, we're already live, so like whatever.
Good to know. Thanks, Ghazali. That's excellent. How could this not work well?
It should be okay though. So let me do the quick intro kind of thing before we just rock and roll. So everyone off Facebook and YouTube, and sorry, everybody on, sorry, let me start with that first. Everyone on Facebook and YouTube, welcome to the 3rd installment of Tea Time with yours truly, just talking relaxed with my friends, my colleagues, and, well, basically they're family by now, everyone that I work with. Talking about the impacts of COVID-19 on Indigenous peoples. So Monday we talked about how it affects the international agenda of Indigenous peoples, including the UN processes. Yesterday, we had a very good conversation about the human rights impacts and the rule of law, and that we have something that came out of that could benefit Indigenous peoples across the globe. So, everyone that's in the current conversation, like if you want to comment or talk about that, about the previous conversations, you're free to do so. And because there were a lot of people that were trying to watch this or follow this live stream via Instagram, apparently this platform doesn't connect to Instagram. So I try to be ingenious. So I'm doing this. So everyone that's following me live on Instagram can also, or following me on Instagram can also like watch what we're doing. So that is pretty much a rundown of this. It's not even a show; it's just a talk. If you want to weigh in at any point, you can do so. You can do it right now. Please, if you're watching on Facebook, YouTube, and/or Instagram, drop in the comments where you're watching from, and that would be very interesting for us. Show some love to us. We're all in quarantine right now. and like social distancing doesn't mean that we cannot be social. So just drop in the comments below where you're watching it from, and if you have any thoughts on what we're talking about, or would like us to talk about something that is related to the COVID-19 impacts on Indigenous peoples, please do so. It is a very interactive concept. It is just a couch talk amongst people, right? So today I have the privilege to have a very wide variety of people have with me on a couch. Are you guys having tea, by the way? Like, do you have are you drinking something, or? Oh yes, awesome. I got mine too. This is good. All right. And Joshua,
this is coffee though. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. Beaska, do you trust people that do not drink coffee? Yeah.
I have to get to know them first.
Right. So I personally, I do not like coffee. It is I had one sip of coffee when I was 8 and told myself after that, never again. So it's tea for me all the way. You cannot convince me to drink coffee, even if you pointed a gun to my head. That's what I'm saying right now. But if I actually have a gun to my head, I will probably, I will most likely reconsider, of course. Anyway.
So I think you like people who do not drink coffee, because I'm also one of them as well.
Oh, you don't,
I don't drink coffee either. This is crazy. We thought we were a minority this whole time. Like, everybody's in our group. They all just pretend and go to Starbucks.
All right. So where you guys dialing in from? Beaska from Saami land, I assume. Cool. And Leilani, where are you right now?
Hungan, I am currently in Washington, D.C., Piscataway territory. My day job is at the Pulitzer Center for Crisis Reporting. So we have been, as you can imagine, really, really busy. And something pretty cool and very related to sort of our talk is we just published a report called the Land Grab University Project, where we were able to overlay on a map of the U.S. Indigenous land cessions backed by force that were used to pay for the U.S. university system, which is interesting because Indigenous folks here have pretty low rate of college admittance.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Definitely. Let's talk about that during this conversation, because I'd love to hear more about that. Josh, even though I assume it's not very pitch black over there in Hawaii. So it's 10 a.m. right there over there right now, isn't it?
Actually, let me just put it that way. I just didn't want Beaska to be feeling bad because it's just sunshine coming in behind me. It's just a ray of lights and sunshine. So that's why not only does my camera not work, but I just didn't want everybody to feel a little jelly. But Hawaii is beautiful, and if there ever is a pandemic, it's the place to definitely be in. I'm just happy to be home longer. So but it's definitely a wild situation. I think the conversations we've been having the last couple of days, I thought Kenneth really came up with some statements yesterday of, we have to struggle to survive. And if you're not struggling, you won't survive. You'll just be an ethnic Mohawk in Canada. I thought he was really coming up with some of the larger ideas that only Kenneth could, while also putting down Hawaii with development. But it's been a great 2 days talking, and I think it's an initiative where we don't have to wait for a UN meeting. We can just talk, and I can tell you, I get texts from people in Hawaii going, "Oh my gosh, you're on, I'm on." So it's even connecting people who don't get to see each other enough, and I think that's the best thing. It's a reset for us all to figure out what matters most, and it's like you said, we're all family and always have worked together that way. And I mean, we're just in Madrid, 3 of us, I remember on the last days, sharing the 2 tangerines that we had to try to, attack the government's back. We're trying to weaken everything, and that's just the way it is. So we can do a lot more. And I was just on a call with Leilani Minton, and she had some great ideas about a global tribunal, and based on what Hawaii had done. So, a lot can grow. I think we're planting some seeds, and there's some possibilities. So we'll see what comes out of it.
Cool. All right. Another good topic to talk about, global tribunal and everything else that you said. All right, Hindou, does your husband, is he already sick and tired of you, of being at home so much because you travel most of the time?
That's a good question. So I have been home for a long time. I mean, after the COP and without a good internet connection, I tried really to get through all the work. It didn't work. But hopefully, and luckily, I just got in Paris 2 days ago. By a military flight. So I joined my husband because he's so lonely, and then I'm with all community, and then at the end, it's good for me because I can get access to a good internet and try to raise money to send back home to the project to support community on the COVID, and also continues doing all my meeting online with you guys. So that's my life.
All right, appreciate it. Hindou, while you're on, can you explain a little bit like how things are in Chad right now in your own community when it comes to COVID-19?
Yeah, sure. So COVID-19, it's everywhere. Even Chad, who is in the middle of Africa, and we are a landlocked. We do not have any sea border or surrounding by other countries. So it seems like a very far. But we do have today 27 detected cases. It seems like it's nothing. But we have more than 1,000 people in quarantine, and then it's coming across the borders. So that means we are not far from it as communities. And then the issue, all the information are given in Arabic and French, and through radio and TV and social media that people are sharing. And there is no radio, TV, so you can't talk about televisions or whatever at the community. So they do not have any information about what's happening. And every single day, we have at least 2 to 3 decisions coming from the government, closing the market, stopping people to go out. So you can go out from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. And you can open any shop, and you can move around, you can travel. So there is a lot of decisions going on, and they are not going to the communities at all. They are not aware about what's happening. So that's really the sad part of what's going on. And when they stop the market for like my people, some of them who are the nomadic, so they have to go at least every 2 days or every week to a market. They sell them product, and then they buy the cereal that they can eat for the next day. And when the market is closed, they can't do any this product exchange. So it's not impacting our health, but it's impacting also our security. So it's increasing the health change in a different way. And when we talk about the basic knowledge on hygienic, you have to wash your hand 5 times at least a day, and you have to close your mouth with the mask and whatever. So we completely out of these things because the community who do not access to the clean water, even for drinking for themselves every day. So you can ask them to wash them hand even 1 times or 2 a day because they can't get it at all. And then having the soap, it's a big issue at the community. So they're always using a river or a lake water to just wash whatever that they have to wash, and drinking and also cooking with the same water. So it's becoming a big gap, and we are like left behind. That's what I said. We really left behind in this COVID-19 process or I don't know, preventions. So today, one of the decisions come out, it's to close all the rural areas from 2 p.m. to 5 a.m. And then as cattle herders, so we go out with the cattle at the morning and at the afternoon. So it's not just blocking the peoples, but blocking the livelihood of the peoples completely. So they do not take into consideration what's going on. And it is our communities who are feeding the people who are in the town. So if they cannot do them activities as they used to do, they can send the food to the market, and then people cannot get the food at all. So it's a channel of all the system, who is entire block. And another decision that come out today by the president is to help all the people in the city to pay them electricity for 3 months. So government will pay to pay the water for 6 months. And then at the end, I'm like, wow, that's really nice, but that's for the people who get access to the electricity and who get access to the paying water. And how about those who do not have even the information about it? So it's completely like different situations. So to cut it short, like what I'm doing to help my people. So I get my phone every day and calling each community chiefs to explain to them that there is this sickness around. So how it's coming. And I'm just like warning them to do not accept any person outside of the community to visit them. I say you can agree. If someone is coming, just stop them. Tell them to go out to the community. And if someone wanted to meet the person, don't grab them by hand and just to stay a distance. Even they can say it's not normal, but try to do it. And then they start asking me how it's work, because culturally we can't do that. So that's become very complicated. But I call them every day and give them this information. And most of them calling me also those who have some information and they want to have the clarification because it's not in the language that they understand. So I wanted to realize a project. Now I'm working on it. And then I have some information to get a little funding. So I'm going to do that on 3 main activities. The first activity is awareness. So I can deploy peoples, at least 3 peoples, and one of them can be a medical person to go to the community and explain to them how it's important to wash their hands and how it's important to take a distance and all the basic knowledge that they have to do. And second, it's to give them the hygienic materials. So I wanted to buy some soaps and buy some mask and some liquids who can protect them. And then I can distribute that through the communities and ask them at least to use it for the 2 weeks without going out. At least maybe it can prevent them from something. And then the third activity is to help them with the food insecurity. So when they go to the market, they buy the basic things like salt, they buy like cereals, and also those basic main things that they buy in the market. I will provide that to them and share it through the communities, at least the things who can keep the most vulnerable peoples for 2 weeks to do not go to the market, and that can prevent them to do not get the contact to the peoples. And for those who go out and who have to go out, like the months, they always have to go out to get some exchange or whatever. Then they can wear at least the masks, and it's like a washing mask. They can come back and wash them because they can't get the mask that they can exchange every 4 hours, and then they can wash them. So this is the project I work on it now. And then hopefully I can realize it by the next coming 2 weeks. And I can share the good information with you and maybe some photos, maybe some videos, or maybe help other indigenous communities to learn from what we try to do in Chad. I stop here for now.
Thank you, Hindou. And I also, if you have time, of course, on Friday, so the Friday show will be on like what are the indigenous projects that need to be that we can support. So we're Rochelle, for example, right now she's trying to compile all the projects that indigenous peoples are setting up actually that require help. That for example, the Navajo Nation and your project as well. We're trying to do like a showcase of all these projects that are happening, and also like telling people how they can help in terms of advice and guidance, and of course also donate. So this Friday, like if you're not available on Friday, like please provide any information that you can. That we can share on the Friday show. I hate to call it show, by the way. It's not a show, but it is. But
Friday coffee.
I think.
Time.
Oh yeah, I know. Beaska, if I can go to you. So this whole idea, the tea time, is an idea that was born out of a big conversation that we had a couple of weeks ago, and you were part of it. And something that you told me in that conversation was that the COVID-19 pandemic is not the only crisis that the Saami are experiencing right now. There's actually a crisis that may be a bigger crisis happening right now in Saami land, particularly when it comes to the reindeer. Can you also talk a little bit about that, because we're also focused on COVID-19 at this point, but I think for the Saami, like there's two different crises going on that are different, but also they're all both very lethal to the indigenous peoples of Saami land. So please share your thing.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Yeah, that's true. It's we have relatively very few cases of the disease up here, and a little backstory before I go to the grazing crisis is that actually the north in Norway, I live on the Norwegian side of the Saami land. Almost or very many municipalities closed down travel from the south of Norway, where all the cases were, and the government down in the south, they try to open up North Norway for free travel, but the municipalities and the local governments didn't listen to the national government and kept the quarantine decision they had made, that anyone coming from the south should be 2 weeks in quarantine when they arrive. And some municipalities still have that decision enforced. And the reason for that is because there is it's not summer up here. It's not even close to spring up here. So our road systems are pretty much closed almost all the time. So if some small village or municipality or whatever gets the disease, it would be very devastating without the infrastructure to get people to the hospitals or to treatment at all. They can't get in or they can't get out of those places. And on top of that came it's an extreme winter with extreme amounts of snow, and it's still snowing. So the reindeers and other animals can't get to the food. So there could be a disaster. But now the government, since we talked last time, they have provided this helicopters, and they fly out food for the herders, because the herders themselves don't have the capacity to both look after the herds and to transportate all this food for the reindeer that is necessary for the reindeer to survive. So we hope that will be sufficient enough, the government package that they provided. So we'll see. The latest news on that is that this must maybe be ongoing until early May. but of course it's the winter that decides that. So there are very big is it topographic? No, it's climate differences in this world. I see most of the world have summer, but in the Arctic it's still full winter, and that also affects how we deal with the corona situation. The borders are closed, pretty much just health workers and necessary workers get to cross the national borders. And I live on a border right here. It's 50 meters to the Finnish border from me. So on the other side, I couldn't go to the other side legally. So of course that also affects the local communities living on the borders we have. So it's a military close down of the borders. So they check every person going in and out, at least on the road systems. So yeah, that's basically the two. We have one crisis to deal with right now. Luckily, we haven't got the big hit of the corona situation yet in the north. And if we should try to plan something, it's of course to hope for a vaccine to arrive soon, or to get a big hit in the summertime, because the roads will be closing again next winter. So in between, we have also those time frames to consider when dealing with this. Today, or was it yesterday, the governments are opening the kindergartens again. So many people are concerned about that, and could we get some disease spreading up north now on that? But we'll have to wait and see. We are also in a very lucky situation. We are not many people here. It's not a very dense area people wise. So I think we have 3 square kilometers per person in this county alone. So the distancing is not a big problem, and the small towns and villages, we are not many people, so it's very easy to trace and track. There are a few cases of the corona also here, but it has been manageable, and with the hard restrictions on travel put in place pretty early, then it's for now under control. But of course, disease is disease, and you'll never know. So the first crisis is the grazing right now.
Right. And in terms of like because the Saami are in in Norway, Sweden, and Finland, like is that like a unified from both 3 countries in assistance to the Saami, or is it different from in every country in terms of helping the Saami like to overcome this crisis when it comes to the grazing for the reindeer?
Yeah, it's different systems all over, and I'm not quite totally sure how it's dealt with on the other sides of the borders. There is also Russia, where Saami lives. So that I won't be the right person to ask, but I see on Snapchat and on Instagram that people are also feeding reindeer elsewhere, and I know there is very big heavy snowfall everywhere, and also further south. This is not the first year with grazing problems. Further south, probably because of climate change, then the grazing lands are locked down due to ice and raining in the winter. And rain on snow, it becomes ice, and that has been a big problem. And it seems that now we are talking about climate change, but it seems that every year that border just comes further and further north, where it will get ice layers on regular basis. Of course, one year is not the other year's brother, but and it has been incidents before also with lockdown grazing lands, but not as frequent as in the recent let's say 10 years. So the climate change is really impacting the reindeer herding communities.
Yeah.
So yeah,
It's almost tragic that the world is so focused on COVID-19 right now that they're all forgetting about the thing that's already hanging in the air, which is climate change, which is already, for example, in Saami land, you can already see the devastating impacts of climate change. So I think that's a very good something that we have to take into account and to talk about as well. Like not only the effects of COVID-19 on the environment, but also like climate change on the environment while we're having this conversation. Josh, how you just came back from Samoa? Was it from the CRC meeting?
Yes. Yes.
How I think that was just recently. So how are the Pacific Island states dealing with this?
Yeah. So I mean, it was definitely, you could see the writing on the wall, the world wall. At that time, I did Washington D.C. and New York to prepare for the UPR of the U.S. So we had meetings with the embassies in D.C. and the missions in New York to try to educate them about what we want them to raise during the UPR, and then flew directly. And in the airport, when I left New York that day on the last day of February, there was just a different sense in the air. And when I arrived in Fiji, and when you arrived in Fiji, the good news was in Samoa, they had you try to take a test within 2 to 3 days before you flew, which of course we know now you could get in contact on your way and it wouldn't mean anything. But it was, you had to have a doctor's note that they checked you out to see if you were okay before you flew. And when you arrived in Fiji, only like Fiji could in the Pacific, they would be playing the ukulele and welcoming you, pula, pula. But then they'd put the temperature gun to your head. And some people would get to come into Fiji, and I saw people who didn't get to come in. So they were actually really prepared. And in Samoa, when I arrived the next day, when I arrived in Fiji, we actually met with communities that were trying to block China from doing black sand mining, because it was a Sunday. So I walked over to the village from the airport, and it was great because it was just like almost like the last morning before the world was different, And then when we landed in Samoa, they actually had you in a hallway and you had to show your letter. And then around the corner, if you got past that, if your letter was legitimate enough, then you came around. And that was great because there was this guy who was trying to wear a gown and it basically just fit on his head. It didn't even come over. And he would take your temperature as well with another ear gun to check your temperature. So I could say the Pacific was better prepared than the United States. And unfortunately, Hawaii falls under that now due to colonization. And so we were there in Samoa, and it was actually great. It was one of those ideas of innovation, right? You had a descendant of someone, O.F. Nelson, who's now the Chief Justice of Samoa. He went and coordinated with an NGO, and they said, let's have the CRC meeting in Samoa. So it was the first time any treaty body met in a region. And it was just a whole different scene. It wasn't Palais Wilson in a small space, and it was the Children's Rights Convention. So there was actually hundreds of kids and keiki attending this meeting. And it just, of course, had the whole scene was Oceania. So it was actually much more connecting and cultural oriented. It started with Ava ceremonies. And when we were there, of course, we're in, and Samoa didn't have any cases. So it was like the last normal before what we saw was going on everywhere else. So there was a lot of, we didn't know how bad it was, but everybody trying to get home. So many flights were canceled. And, looking back, and we see Hawaii now, Samoa and Fiji was doing it right, because when I got back home to Hawaii, all they asked me was, have you been to China? And I'm like, what kind of question is that? And nothing to check temperature, nothing to do anything like that. So we were still wide open. And I really think Kauai was amazing. Their mayor's been organizing more, but they were like, go home. It's the thing Kanaka have been saying for a long time, go home. We don't want your tourism anyway. But it was, go home because this isn't time for a vacation, and don't bring that here. And there was the tension, of course, was economy versus people's lives. And it was too many tourists were still allowed to come in, and certain airlines were giving discount airfares. So you had people coming who, you know, were from New York and other places, but it was pretty amazing how Hawaii was starting to shut down, but we still have a lot farther to go. And, you know, now I'm home, I walk my dogs, I know my neighbors more. But the other side is I walk mom through Waikiki at night and there's no one on the streets, you know? So you can almost start reimagining, well, let's not let everybody in anyway when it is supposedly a little clear. And what should tourism look like? And let's actually indigenize it and change it and not let that model just come back with a vengeance and go back to that way. So the Pacific was amazing. And for the other side, right, we're all here talking about climate. All the children that were there all talked about climate change. And they had panels of youth from all over, from Tuvalu, from Kiribati, being able to speak and share what issues they cared about. And it was climate change as a human right and children's rights. And I also saw Mina there, our friend. And Mina was there because Tuvalu was being reviewed. And we were able to lobby the members over a tea, Ghazali. And Beaska, I'm sure there was coffee consumed too. But we were able to actually get recommendations on climate change and also recommendations to make sure Tuvalu doesn't have curriculum about their own culture and their own language. And so it was making sure that if there would they be forced to be migrating with dignity, that there was at least curriculum so people of Tuvalu still could speak and learn in their own language, because now they learn in English, and also know about their culture and cosmology. So, you know, even though we're there, and I think Beaska brought it up, I mean, as well as Hindou, what this coronavirus did was just expose the existing conditions indigenous peoples were already facing and the discrimination. And then, of course, there's no translation in indigenous languages for materials. And the idea about the pipeline in the US, 3 governors passed new laws that criminalize people protesting a pipeline, and they consider pipeline workers essential workers, which is just as messed up as Trump declaring gun shops essential workers and stores to be open. And then, of course, with those man camps, there's already discrimination and already missing women and girls. But then those man camps, you would then have vulnerable communities being exposed to people coming from all over who just obviously care about money because they're willing to go work during such an epidemic. So, I mean, it's just really exposing the existing discrimination that always existed. And of course, since you brought up the Pacific, we almost had a situation where they said there was a potential tsunami coming. And the crazy thing is the cyclones just went through Oceania. So imagine being told to shelter in place and your homes being blown away. And what Hindou was talking about too, if you have the contamination of all the water, such as in First Nations in Canada and on many reservations in the US, you can't wash your hands because the water is contaminated from all the mining and the horrible practices that have gone on for decades, if not centuries. So, you know, I think what everybody's bringing up, it's so valuable because it's this crisis exists, but look what else always existed, but no one cared about, you know? So it allows us to really look at economic, social, and cultural rights. And now I'd love to see Great Britain, who told me once, human rights are individual. I don't understand this whole notion of collective. Explain it to me. And now they can see what collective rights are all about, just a little bit more. So everyone is now exposed to things that they never thought they would be. But I also thought, like, when I was doing research for our UPR, we did a side event actually this morning in Geneva. And the quotes that I found were great. Lily Kala Kamelehiva, who most of you know, she made this great email like, Kapu Aloha, I love you all, but no one's going to hug me because this is how we were wiped out the last time. And no one has that perspective but indigenous peoples, you know? And a Navajo elder said the same thing, like, this is how they wiped us out. They brought in these blankets and this is what they're going to do. So it's that perspective that I think has just been ignored too long, and at least it's being raised again. But yeah, I mean, if you're in the Pacific and you're trying to battle a World War C situation of this epidemic and then this pandemic, and then you have a hurricane cyclone whip through, On the other hand, though, we now learn all we had to do is work with a small little angry virus, and we could shut down all those airplanes and all the climate things we've been talking about forever. Like, none of us, I think, could have imagined no more flights, no work, like people not going to work, and that what everybody's been forced to do. Like, it's no more rat race, it's human race. So it is a chance to get people to talk and change their views. And I'm glad they can see the Himalayas now. I hope people would, we have to think what lessons we can take for the climate crisis, so we're not there at those midnight and 3 a.m. and 7 a.m. sessions at the next COP.
Right. Yeah. I think there's a lot of things that I want to touch upon, Josh, and there's one particular thing that I like, and we use that as a segue to Hindou, is that like people now talking more about climate change and COVID-19, and like that both have an effect on. Well, we'll see both see the effects right now. Hindou, to me at least, you're the person with the most impressive resume at this point. You know, like you get awards and you get a lot of roles that are very significant, which also brings you into a lot of conversations. So how are these conversations? What are they talking about in terms of addressing COVID-19 or climate change? Can you say anything about that?
Yeah, actually, I think in many webinars that I had, we always talk climate change and COVID-19. So people seems to understand they can separate climate change discussions and COVID-19 discussions. And those who are talking about the year of biodiversity, they also can separate biodiversity and COVID-19. So politicians are very reserved on it. They always looking for the power. They don't want to put the direct link that, yeah, the COVID coming from one bird or COVID coming from one insect or whatever, because they don't want to lose the face. If they put it together, as Josh said, his country, like little colonized country, can lose the face. So what we are having on the discussion, how we can take a lesson learned from the COVID to implement as fast as possible the climate change impact. So we took very long on climate change, and we are seeing in a very fast way, every one of us at the individual level or as institution can act to preserve themselves. We saw that how we are acting to do that. All the measure they ask us about the COVID. We know how the government acting at the subnational level or at the global level when you see the EU coming together and just closing the border, opening the trade, and when you see the US coming, all the cities together and how they are dealing with it. And then we understand that we are taking a very big step in our system. So there will be no excuse that we cannot act for the climate, because we already did that in the COVID. And another discussion is the funding. The most important, the funding. So people talk a lot about climate change is blocked because we do not have a necessary funding. And we do have a lot of projects, and we have the developing countries, we have the developed countries who have to pay, and then always they say they don't have the 100 billions to put in the tables. And immediately with the COVID, we are seeing in less than 2 months, the entire planet decided on how they can rebuild the economy. And immediately they took a correct numbers that they want. US 2,000 billions, EU 1,000 billions. And then when you saw to the developing countries, all the banks also talking about how they can inject money to the social life, but to the industries. So that's a big lesson we can learn from it. If we can take a decisions to the COVID to just to change the system and put the money, why we cannot take this decision and just finance all the action we need on climate change, because we do have this capability and we do have this capacity.
Mm-hmm.
And another linkage is on technology. So we always saying like the renewable energies are very expensive, they cannot accessible. I mean, we do not have enough company who can do them, and then we need this and we need that. So when we see the ventilators, so we are seeing a lot of innovations. In Africa, I mean, we always chatting to WhatsApp. I'm receiving every day a WhatsApp that one country, just so you have 2-3 youths who do not have even a home to stay, but in the street, they just are trying to build a small machine, call it ventilators. And then they show that through a videos, how they can use just the recycling materials and they create a ventilators. And we are seeing like in a big countries, in big companies, how the car companies can change the system immediately and rebuild it to the ventilators. So why they cannot use those technology to go to the renewable energy? There is no excuse to go to the fossil fuel, no excuse to go to the coal mine, no excuse that they say they cannot stop it. As my brother Beaska said, they can't get food for the rangers because the snow is becoming very hard and then the season changing. It is the same for all of us. In Pacific, we see all the hurricane that's coming. We see in Africa now, I mean, in my regions, how we are having a dry ecosystem and our cattle are traveling very far, but no longer they can't cross the border to get the pastures. So we can resolve this issue. So that's why linking the climate change discussion and COVID discussion can give the world a new way to change all the system, to change the governance, because the world needs a new governance system, to change the policies, because it's not only the policies that they can take and took months and months, years and years. Someone needs to sign on before it's come into force. So we can do that very fast. And the third, we can take in our economic system, because the economy cannot be a blockage. We can change from the private to the public to the individual investments. And then the last one, we can rebuild all the solidarities, because COVID needs solidarities. And we are seeing that now when people know them neighbors and then through them dogs or whatever. So people must understand how the others experiencing the climate change impact and how they're experiencing the nice life, because they are using the benefit of this impact by industrializations. So they must come in solidarities and support who need all those discussions. And then the discussion is happening in 2 levels. In the people like us, just as indigenous communities who are very concerned about climate, about COVID, and about all. And then discussions is going also at the international level. So we do not hearing from UN organization that just raising like we need climate change or whatever, but they are talking in a different way, how they can rebuild it after COVID to become a big issue of we need to protect environment, we need to act fast and now. Let me end by sharing with you just an information that I have through my 2 webinar today. So one of the webinar, it was around all the observer of UNFCCC, because tomorrow UNFCCC wanted to organize a discussion with the observers. So then we wanted to see how the upcoming COPs and how the upcoming presidency can look at us as partners in a different way, because we are acting. And in my other webinar, it was with the permanent forum members. So while we do not going to have the permanent forum this year, we are going to have it on 2021. So we have to change also our thematic. And one of the things we say, we have to focus on the emerging issues, and COVID and indigenous peoples must be one of them. So those two discussions where we are doing it in our level as individual, as expert, as those who are concerned, and then the discussion who are going in the UN. So we need to build bridge on it. And how we can do it, I think what you are doing, Khazali, is amazing. Having the coffee or tea discussions, and then having individual who can get in and who can share the information. That's the beginning of how we can build the bridge between what we are doing at the real time and what the other block higher are thinking for the future. So we cannot be left behind in the discussions and we can be connected.
Thank you so much, Hindou. I have a lot of questions actually after what you just said, but I don't want to like hog the microphone. So Josh or Beaska, any thoughts on what Hindou just said, or additions or questions?
Yeah, I like to follow up on what Hindou says about talking together and doing these initiatives. I also think this tea time is fantastic. So thank you for inviting me. And I started thinking about when Hindou was talking about what will happen after this pandemic, when the world is supposed to go back to normal, and social media has very clearly stated, at least my feed, that we should not go back to normal because normal was the problem. And I think this is really an opportunity, or we have to take those discussions already now, even if the world is in lockdown and chaotic, and there is very much chaos in the world. So yes, indeed, those conversations we must have. And I'm a little bit worried that that those big powers, those capitalistic big powers, they will use this anxiety of the mass of people in this pandemic to do whatever. Yeah, you already mentioned that. Yeah, the oil workers or the pipeline builders, they are considered as essential workers right now, and we also have cases with the workers that put up the windmill plantation. That is a huge problem for reindeer husbandry. They are also considered essential workers, also in projects that are not even what's the word, to have the final starting papers. So yes, that raw capitalism is ongoing very much at full force, except from those big countries that have shut down, like China did, and US is now, and the big economies. The point is that I'm a little bit worried about what excuses they will use to go back to normal and to like rebuild the capitalistic system that everyone is very worried about. And I'm also sure that the world will live through this with solidarity and with the distribution of wealth in the world, and that is what has to happen right now. It's the redistribution of wealth, so that everyone who is in need will get what they need. But everyone, and especially those big consumers, they must get used to not have so much, to not have that much they have already, that they are used to. It's late in the night in English for me, but I think you get my point. So that's, I think we should be on the alert already now, how those economic forces try to use this situation of chaos. And I'm sure you have been talking about this in the other tea times also, but yeah, we must link all this together and just not just focus on one problem at a time, because there are others that use this as an opportunity to even more raw capitalism disguised in the chaos.
I agree too, because we know they're all thinking. It's in a way, it's like Naomi Klein used to call it the disaster, the shock doctrine, and now it's Corona capitalism shock doctrine. That they see this as an opportunity just to like, you can see everyone else they ask to stop and don't move, and ask everyone to keep distance, and then for Indigenous, once again, just sacrifice. They're bringing in the pipelines and going ahead and moving forward. So I do see more solidarity, though. I think Beaska brought up a really good point, that people think a little bit more about what matters. And then Hindou had so many good points as well. But that whole point that GM can make a ventilator, there's no reason that if we put this kind of directives that we couldn't meet the Paris Agreement and actually live a new way. And then I think the normal was wrong was the best point Beaska brought up as well. Like, that was the problem. So we can't go back and just be excited about when can we reopen to then turn the wheels of capitalism again. It's got to be, what can we do differently? One thing in Hawaii is more people are finally starting to talk about food more, since, you know, it imports way too much. And at point of contact, 1 million plus people in Hawaii were entirely sustainable and everyone had food. And now 90% is imported. So some of the points Hindou was talking about earlier about food, one of the things everybody's doing for Earth Day is turning in a can to help someone, but getting a huli of taro or kalo to plant. And a lot of people are talking about planting and getting back to the land and realizing, you know, all these things they've ever pushed. In Waianae, where I grew up, they always said with development, you know, no can eat golf balls. Like, you can't eat a golf ball, so why put a golf course in? Why do all these things that they actually do that nobody really wants? So I think, you know, it's our chance to say no one should have been really happy the way it was anyway. And it gives us that chance to move ahead in a new way. And then I'll stop there and keep going. We'll just keep the riff going on rights.
Well, you don't have to stop there. It's well, the thing, like, we're all used to UN processes, so like try not to talk as much as possible or stick to your 5 minutes. You can talk as long as you want. Maybe I see one question that came in, and maybe people can answer it. I'll show it on the screen in a bit. And also, to excuse, because Leilani was she had to run off to a different meeting all of a sudden. So hopefully she can come back in a different conversation that we're going to have. So the question was asked. Well, it was sent to me, but I think haven't heard from Hindou, Beaska, and Josh. Like, I think you much better have also thoughts about this, like how we can promote awareness regarding COVID-19 case, and what types of thoughts can we use. Like, let's talk about it in general. Like, how can we, Indigenous people, can we promote awareness amongst Indigenous peoples? I think this is mostly regarded in like remote areas. So what are your thoughts on that?
So I think it's a very important question. Firstly, how the information can be shared in a fair way to all the peoples and to the remote area is very important. So what also I plan to do in my project, it's how to do a comment dire affiche? A poster.
Yeah.
So how you can do a posters, and then just a poster with images that people can understand. If you do a poster of a white people's like washing the hand from I don't know, them bathrooms, it cannot talk to my peoples. They can say actually the water is coming from where? What are they using? They do not understand the system. But if you do a poster with a normal person who looks like the person at the community, and then with the normal way that they are throwing water and then washing them hand, that just so they watch it and then they know exactly what it's saying. Now, so how you can adapt the images in the posters who can reflect the reality of your own ground. So then people can understand just when they see, even they cannot read. So that can make them understand. This is very important to see how we can develop this kind of, maybe not a standard, but adopt those things and share it among the people who do not get the information. Second, it's when you are giving the informations, so government can give the information through radios or through TVs, as I said earlier, but there are people who do not get access to these informations. And when they send people's going to the community, if like they send someone who is an indigenous, like seriously in my community, if they send like Beaska, who go to my community, and then he start by talking to them in a different way, because he is also Ranger Elders. So he can just explain, oh, I'm also a Ranger Elders, I'm also this. So they have more confidence on him than a medical doctor who is non-indigenous person, but who have more knowledge, who can go to the community. So just the way that person you are sending to your peoples to give the informations need to be adapted to them culture that they can understand. You can send an expert, but if these experts do not have the same understanding or the same culture, the information cannot pass at all. So how we can work on these both things, and then at least we can share the minimum info to the communities. And then the last thing is how we can support those people who are in the remote area, how we can support the indigenous communities who cannot get access, how we can support the women's, how we can support the girls, the children's, because if they took the decisions, it's also societal, because some society have a man patriarchal leadership, and other society have like the same level man on women. And then this, pandemic is not only for man or woman, but it is also for children. It is for all the society. How the inclusiveness can be there. If you are having the meeting, you cannot chase the youth, you cannot chase the children. So you can talk with all of them, or you can talk with the moms who can talk with them children, you can talk with the dad who can talk with the friends and with the people on his age. And then the information can go through all the communities at the same time.
Well, I think you answered the question in more ways than one. Beaska, any thoughts on, and additional thoughts to this question that Marma asked?
Not. I saw the question if it was that on Facebook, where there is remote areas with poor or little electronic communication or possibilities. We don't really have that problem here, but I see as a problem is all the misinformation and all the fake information out there. That and I don't know who should sort the right information from the wrong ones and who to trust, because in general I don't trust the government very much, but in this case I don't really have a much choice than to trust the advice of the doctors and the specialists. So it can be confusing on many levels, and add to that all the wrong information, and you see people burning mobile towers now in England in a high rate because they have linked the virus to the 5G networking mobile network. So and people actually believe that that's the case. So wrong information can do so much damage, and I will be a little bit. I won't shout too loud, but you can look to the US and how wrong information from the highest leader there has turned a situation that is already bad even worse. So you really have to think about who you trust, and I think also the messenger, like Hindou is pointing out, may have or is a very good point, maybe also here. But yeah, the lack of information is not the problem in so-called developed country like Norway is, and also the other countries in Sami land, but rather all the misinformation. It's too much information and you have to distill it. But yeah, I have nothing to add.
No,
to
I think it's a very good addition.
Yeah,
Actually.
yeah.
Thank you so much. Hindou, you told me that you had dinner plans, so you can step out anytime you'd like. Hopefully, like Beaska and Josh can stick around for a little bit longer, so to talk a little bit about like how we can, talk a bit more about environmental impacts. Hindou, anything you wanted to say before you? What are you gonna eat, by the way? Well, what are your?
I can't be there for a while, so I'm going to eat pizza. Imagine. So, coming from chat where I'm eating my daily community meal, and then just today they said like, oh, let's have pizza. And then my husband is a good cooker, so I can put him in contact. I will put him in contact. It's change of direction.
Oh, I thought you like ordered pizza.
He's making it. And then I'm just like smiling it. I'm like, no, I need my indigenous discussions. I'm like, I need the food. But yeah, he's okay. I can still be with you for at least 15 minutes.
Oh, sure. And we would, show us a slice of that pizza. That would be interesting, like how his cooking skills and Anyway, thank you so much for sticking around a little bit longer.
We can't start the cooking competition again, Ghazali. Just don't.
Oh no! Please, no. Oh yeah, Josh. That might well be a very good to break the whole conversation. Tell us a little bit about the cooking competition that was going on in New York.
I'm just saying it. I've just never seen competition so fierce. Ghazali made a great chicken, and the person just called it Ghazali chicken and put it down. It was one of our PFII meetings and the evenings where we normally get to know each other better and get beyond the 2-minute interventions. And yeah, Ghazali, you took it well. That's all I can say. But I'm sure Hindou we don't want to have to bring her husband into the competition because no one can just deal with that competition the way it happened that night.
No, it is. So a little bit more context, right? And so we had a Pyramid Forum meeting, and we just like Josh said, just hang around, have fun, and so me and Janine Yazi, right? So Janine and I, we brought in chicken and what was it? Was it lamb, Josh?
I thought it was chicken, and I just remember the chicken because she was so.
You remember? Yeah. Okay. So anyway,
remember the chicken because the chicken was the good one.
The chicken was good. That's the whole point.
People voted for the chicken.
It was good. She just was tough. She's tough.
I've been around like many chefs and that are very hard, and that are very fierce and very competitive, and they're nothing compared to how Janine was in the kitchen. Because at some point I was even scared to do anything or be in her neighborhood when she was like handling a knife.
This is the other thing. I guess we can do indigenous cooking shows with indigenous ingredients with food.
That's
something that the world.
A good one. Awesome. Yeah.
And then and land rights while everyone's looking at the food.
I think that was like we'll start with tea time, and then it's like dinner time, right? So the next segment will be, or like next show will be dinner time.
But go ahead, explain the context. I'm waiting.
Pardon me?
Explain the context of the chicken.
The chicken, how I did it. I don't know. Like we were in this B&B, and the chicken was. There was not many ingredients for the chicken, so I had to like improvise. So I was looking into like cupboards and refrigerators. So I sauteed the chicken a little bit, I marinated chicken, sauteed it a little bit, and then put it in the oven, and made a like a honey mustard sauce based out of mustard and honey, and like it failed like 2 times. Like used I had to look. And then I used asparagus as a to present it with. So it was like looked pretty good, at least to me. So we're like the two of us, Janina, myself, and 3 others. So Josh, Rochelle, and Christina in New York, and they were like the persons that were supposed to judge our food. And I think, I don't know about you, Josh, but I could see that Rochelle and Christina were very afraid to vote for anyone, because like how Janine was so fierce and so aggressive in the kitchen
with the knife.
Yeah,
It's gonna be dinner time. It's gonna be good. It's gonna be a new show, Dinner Time, with Janine.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, we should do something like dinner time, so tea time, dinner time. I think that's something that we'll definitely look into. And then Hindou, like, you can make your pizza, or your husband, or with your husband.
Pizza is not my specialty. I can't do enough.
What is the specialty, by the way? What do you
Anything.
like? What is the thing that, like, all right, if you want to impress your husband or somebody else, like what do you do? Like, how do you go all out?
Oh, I can do a peanut butter sauce. That's the first thing I did to him, because as you know, the European people do not eat a sauces.
Yeah.
So they love always like fried, or I don't know, anything dry. So then we love sauces things as Asia and Africa. So then I put my peanuts butter sauce with the chicken and with the rice. So that was impressive.
All right.
You can explain through one of the traditional specialty.
Definitely putting that one on the show then. Beaska, what is your cooking skills? How would you rate them? Except from radio, of course.
Okay, then I have nothing. No, it's now it's seasonal. Of course, it's seasonal. Soon it's summertime, and then it's fish, and especially salmon. I live by the Salmon River, and then comes the fall, and then it's meat, moose meat, and fish, other kinds of fish, and then comes winter, and then it's more fish and eating more meat, and then it's springtime, and then it's fish again and some meat. And I cook them, I fry them, and I boil them, and I smoke them, and I dry them, and I salt them, both the fish and the meat. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah, in the fall, of course, it's berry time. Last fall was very bad, so I didn't have much berry this winter, and it has been I have felt very poor this winter without berries. So that was a bad thing. But I think it's very. I'm not the chef, and it's very regular food. But people who come here visiting, they like the food we serve, because it's we have clean and very good food in the high Arctic. So, and we export it all over the world as luxury food. Japan is especially keen on our products. So we have good food, or good material to make good food.
Sure, definitely.
Yeah. So food security wise, we are in a good spot in the world right now.
I confirm, I love the food in Norway. I mean, in all Saami land where I visited, I love the foods.
You were in Saami land a couple of months ago, right?
Yeah, I was in all the parliaments, both of them. And then at the end, I went to even very deep to the glaciers. I went to the seed bank.
Oh, cool.
So,
Yeah, I just missed you
yeah,
when you were here.
exactly.
Yeah.
We must do that next time, Khazali. We should do and visit them, and then we go and visit you in the Pacific, and then you can come in Africa. But when it's become a little bit cold, because when I left a couple of days, it's more than 45 degrees. So when I arrive in Paris, it is 26, but I'm freezing. So that's why you see me, I'm like putting in additional gut. I'm really like freezing here because it's back home. It's really very, very hot. So don't come when it's hot.
Okay.
Survive.
Yeah, as soon as we're allowed to travel again, I'll do like a traveling show out of tea time, and then go to the Saami land and go to Chad and Hawaii and everywhere else, of course. Anyway, people are over in the comments are really digging the whole cooking show idea, because they're posting like, I don't know what it is, but recipes.
We've got a cookbook now that we're gonna be able to make.
I think that was like we're segueing from like talking about COVID-19 environmental impacts to like recipes with cooking with Indigenous peoples, or cooking with Indigenous peoples and allies. So this is one of the things that people are using, saying.
So this is Gina from World Bank.
Yeah, Gina. She's
Oh, that's nice. She's there. She's always posting a very beautiful photos of food. I don't know the taste, but the visual is very impressive. So she must share the food with us.
Yeah, so Gina, if you're watching, like photos are good, but like we need to be able to taste. That's very important as well. What was I going to say? Oh yeah, by the way, so yeah, we had an idea of doing an Indigenous cookbook, like a while. I think that was at Keats. All the ideas that we develop at Keats, at some point they come alive and they become reality. I think, like, yeah, maybe the decoration was an idea at Keats or Manchester back then. But like, I think the Indigenous cookbook would be a very good one. Sorry to break the mood, but like, there's a question coming in that was asked by Katie, and maybe you have some ideas about it for people who are active on social media, asking policymakers to make social environmental change in their personal feeds. How can we encourage them to directly communicate with governments? Seems something opinions posted online is all that needs to be done to make change. I think this not only applies to oh yeah, that applies to everyone actually. So yeah. Well, so what do you think about that?
Well, I don't know if I can jump on it. So how we can help people to communicate directly with the government, or if they can do that, I think most of the government asking even the direct discussion with the peoples. Sometimes they listen, sometimes they do not. So we are seeing, I think all the presidents have a Twitter account. And then most of them have Instagram or Facebook or whatever. So because they know how they can make a publicity for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And they wanted to see how many people are following them. Maybe sometimes it's not themselves who are posting them tweets or them communications. It's another team. But I think I can assume that most of them, at least once a day, they can go to them tweet and see how many people that I do have. They are very upset about it. So I think people who get access to the social media must send the informations directly to the governments. They can tell them what they want, what they think, and how they think the change might be. I can give you the concrete example of today's decisions. So when the president announced he's going to pay the electricity for 3 months, water for 6 months for the people because of the COVID, so you see immediately people are posting fake news and right news. So those who are posting fake news, they're saying, oh, it's not applying to you, it's applying to this one, it's applying to that one. And then they're just like putting the context and then posting a text as the government put it. And then another person doing this different things. In the time of less than 4 hours, immediately another decision come from the government, signed by the government, saying, oh, we are seeing people posting information in the social medias, so we are just telling you those are fake, and we are looking after those people who are putting those information. They can go to the court because they are not respecting what government saying, what government doing. So that's mean if they know what they are posting, and then they know if people put the opposite information from what they want, and then they can do another decision in the within 4 hours, like country like Chad, it can apply to any other governments. So they are watching, they are listening, and then even they can take it seriously or they cannot take it seriously, but it is our way to make the influence and discuss directly with the government. It can be in the COVID, this is important, but it can be in any social or economic or environmental information we want to share. It can be shame and blame, or it can be applaud a government. So we must all put those information out. They are there looking on us.
No, appreciate it, Hindu. I think that's a very concrete answer to the question. Beaska, Josh, any thoughts on this? I have another question coming in as well.
Yeah, I'll do a quick one. I think, the good news is we always had the traditional communication, and it was face to face, and that's what's really most valuable. That's what I think people are cherishing about this whole unplugged period, in the sense that people are, connecting again. And I think that's one thing we can do, but then we can also still use the great storytelling and, being able to really open up people's imagination, but use the technology, So what we could do, one example, what we're doing is next week is Earth Day. So it's one day that the rest of the world thinks about the environment, whereas Indigenous think of it every day, right? So on that day, we figure the UN missions in Geneva they can't go to meetings. So we're going to do a UPR briefing and bring all the Indigenous from the communities from Turtle Island and Hawaii and Guam, Guahan, and other places to say, look, these are the issues, and we're going to use the Zoom to be able to get them to all meet. But then that way, like you were talking about in the first meeting, we actually could save a lot of funds. And I've been always doing that, where I would go to Geneva, but then Skype everybody else in. But I think we can be much more intentional and creative about how to use the technology, but allow everyone to be able to do what they do and enjoy doing without disrupting that. And so I think that's one of the things we can do. And I think, as Hindou brought up, like Twitter's an account everybody's using. I think we can also, when we're maybe at the permanent forum, even teach people, because I think that's a lot of people are also contacting me going, this is great that this is happening, but it's so youth and I don't know how to use these things. And I'm like, just get on and try, So I think, we can do those things to see what is the best. And we might even have someone who can code and create new apps that work more for Indigenous, that get through the technology. We can do high tech and high touch, so we don't have to lose one for the other. I'll stop there and hand it over to Beaska, my coffee drinking friend.
Yeah, I ran out, so now it's soon to be over. No, but to the question itself, I really don't think it's useless that people comment or show their opinions in their personal feeds, because when enough people do that, they will make the waves in the water and draw attention to whatever they are posting. So it's not useless. And we have seen time and time again that when thousands of people jump on the same hashtag or the same topic at once, the governments, they are watching. They will recognize that topic. If it makes any changes, that's another case, but another issue. But it has happened. Like Idle No More, it was totally social media driven. Standing Rock, and now Wet'suwet'en cases, and other cases around the world. And I once more have to quote the president of the Saami parliament on Norwegian side, Aili Keskitalu, that the Western world's greatest gift to indigenous peoples, it is the internet, because we can now collaborate so much faster, so much more effectively, and share information and knowledge like we are doing right now. We just and I said in the fore meeting for this tea times that we have to become internet masters now, and we will become internet masters and social media masters, because everyone is working on that platform. So we just have to make ourselves good at it. And yeah, again, to the one leader across an ocean that pretty much uses Twitter to rule the country. It's very strange, but yeah, why can't we also make changes through those channels? Yeah.
100%. I 100% agree with. I got the question like a while ago, and I posted that. I answered that question in a Q&A video that I uploaded. That it is. We have these platforms that we should be using them. Like people, well, Josh uses a lot of on Twitter. All his tweets are like filled with hashtags, and Hindou uses a lot of social media. And Beaska does a lot. You do also a lot on Facebook, and for me, I recently have been trying to do something on TikTok and Instagram. Well, already been doing it on Instagram and TikTok as well. And it's mostly because you want to reach out to people that are out of the obvious, like your friends and your friends list. Like they know about the work that you do because you're friends. But there's a lot of people out there that do not know about any of these people's our struggles and the work that we do. And I think that is something that we need to be very active on, and in terms of awareness raising and talking a little bit more, and making content that is native to the platform. Like it is stupid, for example, to post a very long video on Instagram or Facebook. Like people want to watch like 1 minute videos, and things like that, or like make very long stories on Twitter. So, and you got to be very aware of that. And something that also struck my mind, struck me actually, was the number of TikTok users. I think it was over 60%, less than 80%, did not have a social media account before they went on TikTok. So that's a lot of people that do not engage with Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook. So that is a market, quote unquote, or a group of people actually that we as these people should engage more with, in a fun way with those videos and everything else. So I think, and I totally agree with you, Beaska, that it is up to us actually. Like we've mastered the UN system to be able to use it. Now we also have to master the internet, all those platforms, and use it to our benefit, in terms of benefit sharing, awareness raising. Sorry, I don't know why I wanted to say benefit sharing. So I think that is a very good thing that we touched upon on this one. I have a question. Yeah, Hindou. Yes, thank you. Enjoy your pizza.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah, I will cherish the photos, and then looking forward to talk to you next time, all of you. And that was a awesome discussions. Have a good night.
Have a good night.
Yeah.
Bye.
Have a good night.
So there's one question that came in from Victor, and it goes back to the original conversation that we had about like, how do we think that we can best capitalize on the positive environmental changes that are occurring due to the decrease in pollution and human activity. So like Josh, what you just said before was that like people can from India can see the Himalayas again, and there's fish swimming in dolphins swimming in what was it? Venice, right? Yeah, Venice. And also we see all these things like species that have been thought that were extinct coming back. So how can we maintain the biodiversity post COVID-19? Any thoughts on that? Like how we can do that?
Yeah, it's one obvious thing is it's just to show them what happens when we when we close down or when we reduce emissions and producing all that garbage that we are producing in this world. The positive change that comes from it. Of course, the world has to adapt also because it's a crisis for many millions of people that are struggling or could be struggling to get food. But a total remake of how society works on a global basis, it's a necessity, of course. And yeah, I don't know. It's about values, I think, what people value and like core values in life. And now this pandemic, I think it was mentioned earlier also, it shows so many people what is real value in life, that it's not the millions of dollars on your bank account. It's security, it's food, it's society and also community. Now that people can't function as communities, then they really realize how valuable a functioning community is. So I don't know really. If I had the answer, I would be in a top leader position in the world, but or maybe not. But I think this is a great opportunity because people they recognize beauty, they recognize the importance of biodiversity and of animals coming into the streets. We see that over and over again, and fish swimming in waters that now are clean, and they weren't a few months ago. So if people just can grab those images and see that beauty and also the importance of the biodiversity and also the great impacts this has had on pollution and finally it will have an impact on climate change also. Just to I don't know, nest them or how should I put it, but yeah, so people may realize what true value is in this situation here, but how to capitalize on it, it's a very difficult question, of course. But we just have to emphasize the positives also of this.
Yeah, I think it's come down to the values. I mean, I was on a call yesterday with a whole bunch of high school teachers and college professors from Hawaii, and they were like, this is the reset button we've been trying to tell the Department of Education and parents about forever. You know what I mean? Place-based learning is where it's at. It's not about taking an exam. It's about taking care of each other. And the values is the one thing we have to change. And that's what Indigenous always had, was that sharing, caring, whereas everyone else was more of just collective and greed, which I think was brought up earlier in the call. And those pictures maybe can be the things that spark people to kind of throw off their blinders. You know, everyone, you hate to see it. Even universities are so commodified now that people don't go like, what do I want to be, or what's my passion? It's what's my profession and what can I get paid? So I think it's resetting, which is what Indigenous have done at every meeting. Like I remember just for this UPR coming up, I tried to say, oh, with Indigenous for the working group, they want to do a prayer. And everybody's like, we've got 5 minutes each. And I'm like, we can't act like that still and come back to the same game. If everybody kind of centered their mind, that happens at the beginning of every meeting. I know sometimes when we're sitting there and, you hear Sid talking about the blade of grass, but then the dew on the blade of grass and our connectedness to everything. That's the problem, is everybody's forgotten all the connections between the earth and humanity. And they get a glimpse of it now around the globe, but we've got to convince them that's greater and much more enriching and what we all want, as opposed to a couple dollars in your wallet and things that they advertise that say we need, and that it's just a false road to walk down. So I think, that's maybe some of the things that we can do. And I think that's always the challenge, is capitalize, because we're not capitalizing marketing people, we want to be authentic and genuine. But I mean, you can see things going a little bit differently. Like, people are walking and spending time and doing things because they can't do the work they normally would do. And then the teachers realize, like, why do I work all the time? Like, life and health and spending more time with family is really what's most important. So I think those are also the values that Indigenous have never lost. And that was some of the wisdom that Kenneth was talking about yesterday, that I was like, yes, exactly.
Mm-hmm. If you look at the question that was sent in, and you take away capitalize, right? And you talk about what is the best way that we can capture at least positive environmental changes, not necessarily capitalize on it, but in a way that and also taking into account like the previous two conversations, the previous two tea times, and this is just a thought, and I would love to hear your comment on this. Is what if we, as the Indigenous peoples, that we started like capturing these positive environmental changes, not only the problematic ones, so the negative ones, but also the positive ones, which includes what we see, like that you can see Himalayas right now. If you're in India, or like things like that, and that we bring them back all into one document, an overview, and then also list, because that's a problem as well, that there needs to be some kind of a checklist for governments and companies in terms of like how response should be, whilst respecting the rights of Indigenous peoples, so that you give them or the UN that checklist, in addition to and whilst also mentioning the positive things that are happening, and the problematic things that are happening. So that was just a thought that was that came up when I saw this question, but also like taking into account the previous conversations. Did that make any sense, what I just said? Or am I a total idiot? Just say whatever you want. Say whatever you want to say.
Yeah, it made sense.
Okay. Oh, good. So is that something that we and I don't want to preempt this conversation by saying that we should work on that, but this is something that we, is it viable? Is that something that, apart from that, it makes sense? Is that something that we should be looking at? Josh, with your UPR knowledge and having gone to the UN long before I did, what do you think of this idea?
Yeah, no, I think it's because a lot of the times, right, I think what this virus did do was make everything stop, which is what we've always tried to share with people. Like, just stop and think for a minute what you're doing. And everybody was just so trapped that this is the way the world works. And what this showed was, nope, the world can totally change. And I think Hindou too, the companies can still make other things. And so, this is the chance for us to, I think, come up with the best practices. And I think that's the good aspect of meeting now is, if we don't organize, the sad reality is the corporations are organized and they'll think, let's do the pipelines now, let's do everything now. And if we at least came up with the common message and the examples of extraordinary, I think it also even helps with the one thing that matches, and the UN's already made it, is the Sustainable Development Goals, that they've actually made a chart for the COVID virus and its impact on all of the 17 goals. But I also think what we can do as well is with those voluntary national reviews, with the Paris Agreement, no one knew what that nationally determined contribution was going to look like. And it, of course, was going to be due in Glasgow. But this gives us a chance to, one thing I haven't looked at yet, but I don't know if anyone else gets that email. I get the email from the Guardian Eco or Green thing, and they measure the carbon. And I know they measure the carbon at Mauna Kea, or Mauna Loa, actually, the sister mountain to Mauna Kea, where the giant telescope, we were organizing the campaigns to stop that, the 30-meter telescope. And, you know, they trace how the carbon is measured every week. And I'm interested to see how far it goes down, and then look at what we've been trying to aim at with 350 and below 1.5. So our brothers and sisters in the Pacific do not lose their culture and their land. So I think this is what we can do and how we can move forward. So I think there are some amazing opportunities. And I think a lot of us also thought, I mean, you would just never think that within a month it could change so drastically. And nature, I think everybody's underestimating the power of nature, which Indigenous always knows is most powerful and doesn't negotiate. She's coming back strong, and we just have to make sure that we can hear her and coordinate activities around that. And that's why we thought for Earth Day, since missions are sitting around in Geneva and can't go out, why don't we bring the Indigenous voices from before the US UPR and make sure we do it the right way. We start with opening prayer. We have people talking across from the Arctic to Oceania, what is needed and how to do it. So it's making sure that those issues are raised and put into the UN process we know well, but to use this technology and be creative to do it in new ways and get more people connected and bring more people in. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the other side is, you know, we always know we can learn from each other much more. And being home this much, I mean, the students are, everybody said we needed masks. So one idea we're coming up with was, because I love our Aloha and Bula shirts, but getting professors from the university to donate those Bula shirts and to cut out really good masks is one thing. But then getting everybody to start planting and doing Indigenous gardening and growing the food that we all need. And that cycle comes up. I think that's what I also liked in the beginning, listening to our Saami friend is, you know, it's nature and cycle. And nature only allows you to do certain things at certain times of the year. And we've been trying to control nature for too long. So this is our chance to really make sure that the voice of the earth is heard and to use the mechanisms that do exist, the 2015 ones of SDGs and Paris Agreement, 2030 Agenda, and then using human rights. I think Human Rights Watch just came up with 40 points on all laws that they want to push for any of the new laws coming in, because that's the other threat. The US has someone who can't connect a dot in their cerebellum, and, you know, they withdraw and then take away funds as well, and then complain about China's role moving in. But the whole point is there's a lot of countries who don't like human rights, even worse than the colonizing countries who do like the okay things every once in a while. And we have to actually do that for everyone now, to point out how human rights is so vital and connected with Earth's rights. And most people never make all those connections, but Indigenous sort of know that and can.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. And something that came into my mind actually was, did you see the David Boyd's latest press release that he released today? He said that COVID-19 must not be used as an excuse to weaken environmental protection.
And now that you mentioned that, I wanted to tell you, I also thought he was doing creative things. You know, sometimes you know, most people are so overwhelmed that the world's changed so much, but I've just been like letting it roll over, kind of like the waves in the ocean. If you fight it, it'll just break you down. If you roll with it, you kind of go in and out with it. And I saw him post a consultation where he did something totally different. He and that's how I think came out of the press release, but he had a consultation online 5 times, and you could sign up, and then he gave the questions of what he wanted to ask and answer for his study, and everybody got to talk as long as they wanted to on each of the points. And it was great. I didn't have to go somewhere to meet him, and also met a whole lot of people online that I hadn't met before. So no, I think that keeps coming up. We can use the technology in a good way and just not get lost with it like too many people have.
Right. Yeah. We're coming to the tail end of this conversation. So I'd like to, is there anything that you would like to say still, Beaska?
I would like to ask you to send me the link for the Sustainable Development Goals, how it has impacted those. I tried to Google it, but I couldn't find.
No problem. I'll forward that to Ghazali, and we can share the list. Yeah, it's just
that was interesting.
Sure, yeah. I'll post it also into the comments of this conversation, so that people can, because there's a conversation going on in the comments as well. So I'll post it in there so people can refer to the comments for the link. Josh, any final thoughts about what you, or anything that you still want to talk about?
No, I mean, I thought it was a great initiative, so it was fun to watch, and I know a couple people passed it around, so I thought that was really good. And of course, like with life, when you need it, the camera never turned on, but it was still a great time. So the whole point too is, if people have low technology, we don't get to see each other's great aloha shirts, but we can still communicate, and it hasn't really hampered the conversation at all, because we had Hindou and everyone adding. So we can look at whole different kinds of ways that we don't have to always just have the camera. We don't have to have all the technology. And of course, we also know, as much as we love technology, sometimes when you need it, it doesn't work. But we can use it, what we have to be able to still communicate and connect with one another. And we're going to try Earth Day next week. So if anyone falls within the colonial boundaries of the United States these days, and you want to present next week, we're trying to do it at 3:30 Geneva time, and then it's at least 9:30 on the East Coast. And of course, it gets worse for people in Hawaii, but we wanted to make sure that people who were participating in the UPR know they don't have to just wait for the U.S. to turn in their report. The main thing is, it's a 3.5-hour review, and we just have to get the states to ask the right questions. So anyone who wants to participate can send an email to joshuacooperhawaii@gmail.com, and we want to make sure everyone could be able to speak.
All right, so joshuacooperhawaii@gmail.com if you want to learn more about Earth Day, and talk about it as well. Participate. That was the word that I was looking for.
You're on mute.
Yeah, I almost wanted to do my closing monologue, and then it throws me on mute, probably because they don't want me to talk too much and they want you to talk more. So thank you so much, Beaska and Josh and Leilani and Hindou, for stepping into this conversation. This is day 3 actually of Tea Time, and I've been already getting a lot of questions. One of them is, for example, why is Tea Time not in French, Spanish, and in Russian? So the short answer is, like, my Russian is as good as my Chinese, so not as good as I want it to be. So we're trying to figure that out, like how to do something like that. You have an idea, Beaska, how you can help me out with that?
Yeah, no, just a follow-up question. Why isn't it in Saami?
Yeah, a very good one.
No, actually, before you are wrapping it up, I just have one question. Whenever you come here, fish or meat?
Ooh, yeah, I don't know. Like, Fish.
Okay, both.
Yeah, both. Yeah, I'll start with
Yeah,
fish,
okay.
but I'll definitely go to meat. Yes.
Okay.
How about you, Josh? Fish or meat?
Both. Why do
Yeah.
either? Yeah.
Yeah, that's the right answer.
Okay. Oh, oh, passed it. Oh, thank God I don't have to do the Corona yoik or sing I'm a Saami boy again. Not doing that again. So that's an easy question. I wish I had you like a couple of years ago when I was introduced to the Saami community. I had to do the Corona yoik. I haven't seen
Yeah.
it. So yeah, I think it's answering the question. Fish or meat is much better for me. Yeah, definitely looking forward to going to Saami land, man. Thank you so much. All right, Beaska, Josh, thank you so much for joining in. Still be the last one standing. Hopefully, you'll stick around for the next couple of days of tea time. And all right, by the way, Saturday will be mic night, open mic night. I don't know, have you heard about it?
I did. So it's going to be, let me get this straight. We're going working group, Indigenous Peoples, old school, down there by the Geneva plage is what we're going to call it, the UN.
What we're gonna do. So if you're interested in open mic nights, you can sign up. Just put your email in the comments, or just hit me up on Facebook. What we're gonna do with Indigenous people from all around the world, we'll go live into tea time as a present to everyone who's watching and all the Indigenous peoples and non-Indigenous peoples. Yeah, they're gonna share songs, spoken words, or karaoke, because we're supposed to be in New York right now for the Permanent Forum, and we're all supposed to be at Keats as well, the famous bar that not a lot of Indian people go to, particularly for not only for the drinks but also for the karaoke. So what we're going to do, we'll try to capture that into one night. It will be called Open Mic Night, and we'll be coming out with information about that later today or tomorrow. So definitely keep that in mind. Tomorrow we'll be talking about deploying indigenous self-protection mechanisms. So what am I saying? Is that we're all in quarantine and in lockdown right now, and what it is that yeah, we have food sovereignty. Beaska will talk about it. Food sovereignty. Nation of Hawaii is doing something in terms of sovereignty as well. So how can we use this time to develop that and apply that, and traditional knowledge? How can we use that? How can we use the things that we already are using out there in the world as Indigenous peoples? Like, for example, in the Pacific, where we talk about, we have the rahui in Aotearoa, which is similar to sasi in Maluku, where I'm from, where you just close off a certain area or a resource for a certain amount of time to be able to let it regenerate. Is it something that we should all apply? Can we apply that as Indigenous peoples all around the world? Should we do that in a collective effort, or is it something that we shouldn't do? Like, those things are interesting things to talk about when it comes to deploying Indigenous self-protection mechanisms. And there are many more things that we're going to talk about tomorrow. And on Friday, of course, it will be about what programs or initiatives are out there that require the help of you. You heard about the Navajo Nation today and yesterday. They're in dire straits. They need a lot of help. How can we help them? I already shared a GoFundMe on my Facebook page that you contribute to. I already contributed to that GoFundMe, and I hope that you include them as well as your own peoples and all the other Indigenous peoples in your prayers and your thoughts. In these very difficult times. So that will be on a Friday. In the meantime, use this platform, use the comments to keep on discussing and talking about stuff. And I see that Josh, at the final minute, he has been able to, or I should. So what Josh looks like. It is Josh, right?
It got on. It took forever to get on, but I'm on.
So now people know what you look like. It's is this like intentional, or you just like, were you actually able to make it work like 2 minutes before we go on?
So what I did is, we have the computer that we take to the UN, the little MacBook Air. I had to load up some stuff on it, and then my computer at home is still loading. So I tried. But good to see you.
Oh, you're echoing. It's crazy.
I was riffing. I was practicing my DJ skills.
Oh, okay. No, so everyone knows what Josh Cooper looks like. And of course, Earth Day, send an email, joshuacooperhawaii@gmail.com if you want to stay involved and want to participate in that initiative. Very much helpful. If you're like right now, currently colonial U.S., right? That's where.
Yeah, that's the UPR of the U.S. is the concentration, but there's a lot of things we can all do now. So that might even be one of our tea times that we do. What do we do in 2020?
Right. Another tea time then. Should I do another week of tea time? I don't know. Like, there's a lot of things that we should be talking about. Well, you think so? Should I? I don't know.
Maybe we take a week off, or we do something for Earth Day. You continue the Keats night. I was thinking something on the closing of the permanent forum on the 24th.
Ah, all right. Yeah.
We can have a virtual PFII closing together.
Yeah, we're also thinking about doing like a pub quiz kind of style thing.
But on Indigenous rights?
On Indigenous rights, yes. So yeah.
Where did traditional knowledge come from? Who wrote that phrase?
Yeah, that would be very interesting. So yeah, me and the team are like trying to work that out. So there's a lot of good things that we got down the pipeline. Anyway, thanks, Josh.
Right,
everyone over on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and whatnot. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you so much for watching, and hope to see you tomorrow, same time, team time with me. All right, have a great day, morning, evening, wherever you are.